Code Vein is a fast-paced action RPG set in a dystopian future where the only thing bold enough to explore its ruins are revenants, corpses reanimated thanks to a mysterious parasite implanted directly into their hearts. While this grants a revenant the ability to repeatedly die and revive, it causes an insatiable thirst for fresh blood and a bad case of amnesia with every death. Too many deaths, or not enough blood, will cause a revenant to go insane, killing everything that moves just to steal its blood. These mad creatures consumed by bloodlust are called the Lost. Once a revenant becomes one of the Lost, there is no coming back. Things might already sound bad, but it gets worse. After the war to overthrow the Queen of the Lost, there simply wasn't enough blood to go around. The Revenant soldiers who helped to free humanity from her violent frenzy were left to fend for themselves and quickly succumbed to their thirst, swelling the ranks of the Lost they fought so fiercely. You could think of it as Queen of the Damned if you do, and Queen of the Damned if you don't. All hope is not lost, however, as Revenants can use artificial blood contained in blood beads to slake their thirst. Although, the origins of these blood beads are just as mysterious as the parasites that demand them. You are a Revenant, or a catgirl, awakened long after the war and possessing a unique power, the power to absorb and modify other Revenants' blood and thus their strength. Together with your new allies, you set out to unravel the mysteries of the parasites, the blood beads, and the collapse of humanity's once global civilization. For those gamers who don't care very much for story, the gameplay is a smooth blend of Dark Souls and the old Xbox classic Fable, courtesy of the brilliant minds behind the God Eater franchise. As you progress through the game, you can mix and match active skills and passive perks to create some straight-up OP builds. I was able to sneak my way into the network test and was very impressed with how the combat flowed and the overall anime-themed aesthetic. Believe it or not, the allies I mentioned earlier are not only a significant boon, but also just plain charming in their own right. Each one has a distinct personality that makes exploring with them enjoyable, like the way Mia teases you for looting every item, or how Yakumo shouts bro-flavored encouragement in the middle of battle. All in all, it makes whooping some lost booty as a team of unstoppable vampire badasses a lot of fun. Alright, enough introduction, let's get down to business. This video serves as a comprehensive guide to get you up to speed for your first playthrough of Code Vein. It'll cover everything listed here, so if you want to know something specific, feel free to skip ahead to the times shown on screen. You can also check the description for the timestamps to each section. First things first, let's take a quick tour of your home base. You'll be spending a lot of time here, so we might as well go over everything. Let's start in the bedrooms. They're tastefully furnished, and that's about it. Downstairs is the basement. Besides being the place where you claim your pre-order bonuses, there's not a lot going on down there, but at least it's good to know where the circuit breaker is in your house. You know, in case you get struck by a post-apocalyptic power surge or something. Moving on. This is the bathroom. You can change your character's appearance here. Keep in mind that the save slots here are tied directly to the character file, so you won't be able to load any of your previously saved character presets. However, you can still update your saved character presets that you made during the beginning of the game, and save and load tweaked setups from your currently selected character from the character creator located in the bathroom. Imagine that there's one big costume box at the beginning of the game when you create a character. After you close it and start the tutorial, that character gets their own personal costume box, which is located in the bathroom of your home base. You can modify all the costumes in that character's box, but you can neither reach into someone else's costume box to steal something out of it, nor can you reach back into the big costume box from the beginning. You can only modify that character's costume box. It's a minor thing, but it's worth keeping in mind if you like to make multiple characters. Okay, enough about that. Let's head to the lounge. There you will find Io, the bustiest of Jupiter's moons, a sweet grand piano, a jukebox, as well as the bulletin board explaining your next objective. Feel free to take a break here. And by the way, your character will fall asleep if you let them sit there long enough. It's a nice touch if I do say so myself. Next to the lounge is a balcony overlooking a very dire landscape. After the balcony comes the bar. It's not very useful without a bartender, and I've yet to find one who can make a good Tom Collins, so let's move on. Next to the bar is Lewis's desk. If you can't find him in the lounge, look here. At the end of the main hall, you'll find the exit as well as the practice area. It's not exactly an exit like you would think, rather it's just a run-of-the-mill checkpoint missile you can use to teleport away to the rest of the game. The designated practice area is the only place in your home base where you can swing your weapons around, obviously, but it actually has a secondary use. Your character will put on their blood veil in addition to pulling out their weapon. Say, for example, you want to add a glowing heart icon to the outside of your blood veil so that when you press the heal button on your controller, your character will hit a heal button on their blood veil too. By running back and forth between the practice area and the bathroom, you can position the fake heal button just right. Next to the practice area, you've got the place where Davis the biker bro likes to hang out. Speak to him to visit the depths, a place where you can mess around, gather some haze, and collect materials. You will need to collect maps to the depths before you can visit them. These maps are all either rewards for completing side quests, or found throughout the world as loot. Next to him is Kagamine Ren, both a virtual pop idol and the merchant who deals with weapons and blood veils. She's the one who does all the upgrading and transforming for your equipment. She also has a part-time bodyguard named Yakumo, but he's not important. The shop he's guarding is too far away from the practice area, so it's not like anyone can rob her at sword point. I suspect he has a crush on Ren and is simply too shy to tell her how much he loves the song Meltdown. But whatever, you do you, Yakumo. Next is the hot spring, where you can have a nice soak and rewatch any cutscenes you've seen so far, and revisit any vestige memories you've previously experienced. Finally, we come full circle to a sick-ass muscle car and Captain Cleavage, the consumable item vendor. Her real name is Coco. She's rude and aloof, but don't take it personally. The items she sells are quite useful and reasonably priced, so she can be rude to me all she wants. Again, she's located too far away from the practice area, and she knows nobody can menace her with their weapons because she treats them poorly. It's worth noting that you can give valuables to the NPCs by using the appropriate section when speaking to them. Giving them valuables awards you with points which you can spend on unique items with that NPC. Each NPC has specific interests, and giving them a valuable which they enjoy will award you with more points. For example, Biker Bro really loves his ramen, while Miss I Swear They're Real appreciates 11 secret herbs and spices. I'll expand on the valuable giving system more in the future, so keep your eyes peeled for that video. Next, we'll crack open the start menu and go over a few things. Looks complicated? Don't worry, we'll go over all the important parts. Listed near the top is your current equipment, that is your weapons and armor, also known as your blood veil. See the icons just above your equipment? The single face icon is your status menu. It displays your resistances, stat bonuses, the damage you can deal with your weapons, and your mobility speed. Most of it is irrelevant to staying alive, because a 10 damage difference doesn't matter if your attacks don't land. Next is your inventory. I feel like that is pretty self-explanatory, but for the sake of being comprehensive, I should mention this is where you find everything you've looted, any keys you've found, and all the vestige cores you've collected. If the vestige core is shiny and full, you've repaired it, but if it's dull and incomplete, try talking to Io to repair it. Some repairs require multiple cores, so keep the ones you still have to collect in the back of your mind. That icon with the two faces is the multiplayer menu. It functions similar to SOS flares in Monster Hunter. You send a distress signal, and a few moments later, another human player will jump into your game and lend a hand. The section for medals is not only a list of achievements/trophies, but it also displays your co-op progress and the rewards for each rank. Beside that is a section for your quick item menu. You can think of this as your second hotbar. It's a good place to put your stun cures, poison cures, return to checkpoint items, and anything else that is useful but infrequently needed. Next to that is your customized gesture menu. As you go adventuring, you will unlock new gestures, stamps, and voice lines for your character. Nothing beats having an expressive character, so I recommend combining gestures and voice lines in clever ways. The question mark and a diamond icon is the read hint section. Basically, this is your gameplay encyclopedia. If you accidentally skipped a hint in the tutorial area, you can reread it here. By selecting the gear, you can change the various settings, including turning off the flow-interrupting flashy animations and rebinding your controls so that they're more like Dark Souls. Technically speaking, you don't have to change your controls, but my brain is a strange creature. I needed to change the controls to be more comfortable. Lastly, we have an open door icon. It lets you quit to the main menu without saving. The game autosaves when you die, teleport to a different area, or rest at a checkpoint. However, there are some circumstances where it's better not to save, like when you're trading with NPCs. Say you accidentally bought too much of one item. Quitting the game without saving will cancel the trade and allow you to load the game to a point before trading. One last thing about saving, you can both save the game and return to the title screen by selecting the appropriate option from any checkpoint. At the very bottom is your currently equipped consumable items. This is your main item hotbar, so I recommend putting your healing items and Ichor concentrate here. This intersection is your current blood code, or your currently equipped class. To the left of your blood code is your passive perks. These passive perks can be divided into two main groups, always activated and ones that have specific conditions. For example, Stamina Boost from the Ranger blood code is always active the moment you equip it. while Dark Impulse from the Caster Blood Code will give you improved damage with all the dark gifts while focused, but won't do anything if you're not fully focused. We'll talk more about combat in the focus system later. You can think of these passive perks as rings in Dark Souls and survivor exhaustion perks in Dead by Daylight, respectively. To the right are your currently equipped gifts, or active skills. Using your gifts consumes Ichor, a resource that steadily replenishes as you strike enemies. Ichor also serves as ammo for your bayonet rifle, but it's virtually infinite. As long as there are baddies to hit, you can farm some Ichor off of them. There are tons of gifts, and each one is incredibly varied, so I won't be going over all of them. And finally, the big map-looking thing on the right is, well, it's your map. Notice the completion percentage at the top. Very handy if you want to find every little secret. Now that I've got my hands on the full version of the game, I should mention something about how items appear on your map. First of all, you will need to get within a certain distance before they will appear. You can increase your imaginary item find radar by using the Treasure Tracker gift. Partners will also help you by marking items they can see on your map, but since they stick close to you, their viewing range is quite limited. Unopened chests will appear as little boxes with a thin black line running over the middle, while opened chests will appear as a box with a much thicker black line. Items just laying on the ground will appear as a dot with 4 spikes, or if you prefer, a bloated X with sharp points. These shinies disappear from your map once you collect them. Now we get to the best part, exploring the world and getting into fights. Let's take a look at the heads-up display you see while running around the world. The big red bar is your HP, complete with a precise number overlay. The white bar adjoined to it is your stamina bar. Above that is your focus gauge. Again, we'll cover the focus system in more detail in a short while. Just above your health and stamina bar is a section for your currently selected consumable item, with a reminder of what button you should press to use it. On the right are your gifts, or active skills. Make sure you have at least one melee attack skill to break through any shielded enemies. Or this happens. These active skills require Ichor to activate. As mentioned earlier, Ichor is a resource that you earn by hitting enemies. As you smack them around, a little meter under your current Ichor will fill up. Once it's full, you'll gain some Ichor and it will reset, counting up again as you smack around more enemies. Bigger weapons recharge Ichor faster. Keep in mind that once your Ichor is full, the little meter will also stay full since it can't give you more than your max amount. Above your consumable items is a section for your AI partner and any human players helping you. It displays their HP, focus gauge, and a personalized icon. If they have the Heal Your Friends gift, you can see how close it is to being charged up and ready to use. By the way, your AI partners will always have that perk, and you'd have to be a bit of a fool not to equip it yourself. Speaking of partners and gift, each AI partner has a unique team gift all their own. You will need to replace one of your currently equipped gifts to equip the team gift to be able to use it, obviously, but the effects are worth it. For example, if you choose to bring Lewis along, you'll be able to boost your attack and evasion, at the cost of some damage resistance, with his powerful team gift. Finally, in the top right corner, you have a mini-map, but you probably didn't need me to tell you that. As you explore, you'll leave a trail of dots on both your mini-map and the map in the start menu, with your most recent path being a trail of fat dots. Tiny dots mark where you've already been previously and persist after you die or teleport. Be on the lookout for miniature missiles to purify, as they will uncover the surrounding area. Sometimes they are even attached to enemies. These mini-missiles will be automatically purified once the enemy holding them is defeated. Any RPG worth its salt has a leveling system, and Code Vein is no different. Leveling can be done at every checkpoint and increases your health, stamina, and overall damage. Each subsequent level costs more currency than the previous one, but that doesn't mean you should be cheap and stingy. It's never a bad idea to improve your survivability. However, leveling up does not unlock new classes or spells, nor does it allow you to wield new weapons. It only improves your base stats. Next, we should go over blood codes in more detail. In essence, your character's blood code is their class or job. It dictates your max Ichor, your max HP, what weapons you can wield, as well as what spells and passive perks you have access to. You start the game with a choice of 3 different blood codes: Fighter, Ranger, and Caster. These starting blood codes have got a nice rock, paper, scissors element to them. For example, the Fighter can wield all the big smashy weapons, but has basically no long-range gifts. The Caster is the opposite. You have a choice of some heavy-hitting long-range gifts, but you can't effectively wield the big, ultra-sized weapons. As you progress through the game, you will unlock new blood codes. You can change your current blood code at any time by using the start menu, so feel free to switch them out as needed. As you kill more foes, you will increase your familiarity with your currently equipped skills and passive perks. Once you max out the familiarity of said skills, you can equip them onto any class, with a few exceptions. For example, gaining mastery of the Venom Mark spell from your Ranger blood code allows you to equip it on your Fighter blood code, and so on. Same goes for the passive perks. It's quite similar to multiclassing in Neverwinter Nights, or equipping a teachable perk from a killer's or survivor's skill tree in Dead by Daylight. However, not every perk and skill will be available from the outset. You will need to buy new skills from the appropriate section at any checkpoint. One aspect of Code Vein that excited me was the inclusion of bayonet rifles in the weapon list. Imagine, a bow and arrow from Dark Souls, but trench warfare flavored and capable of performing melee attacks. Sign me up! Besides bayonet rifles, there's also one-handed swords, two-handed great swords, big ol' stinking hammers, and polearms. Think halberds and spears. There's also a lead water pipe in case you feel like a biker hooligan from Akira. Next up is your armor, or blood veil. Some blood veils have stat requirements, but this can easily be obtained by switching around your blood code or passive perks. What's interesting is that your armor has its own built-in special attack that increases your maximum Ichor when it connects, called a Drain Attack. Don't worry, I'll explain Drain Attacks in more detail in the appropriate section. There are 4 main types, each with their own unique Drain Attack, parry timing, mobility speed, and stat bonuses. You've got Ogre, a very quick but very short-ranged blood veil, Thorn, a medium to long-range veil that can pierce multiple enemies with its Drain Attack, Hounds, a short to medium range veil with a multi-hit Drain Attack, and Ivy, a veil with a slow but extremely long-range Drain Attack capable of sneaking underground to catch enemies off guard. Each one of those 4 main types has a whole bunch of variations, so we won't go over all the individual styles I encountered during the course of my first playthrough. Talk to Rin at your home base to buy new variants. The most important thing to remember is both your Drain Attack and parry timing are dependent on your currently equipped blood veil, not your currently equipped weapon. Earlier, I very briefly mentioned mobility speed, so allow me to elaborate. Your current blood code, currently held weapons, and your currently equipped blood veil all influence your mobility speed. There isn't a fast and hard rule about which blood codes, veils, and weapons give which mobility speeds. That said, your equipped weapons impact your mobility the most. Specifically, it's the weapon currently in your hand. If you want to be a speedrunner, equip a really light weapon for moving around and a massive weapon for dealing damage. That's because small weapons like rifles and one-handed swords let you whoosh around like a Hunter in Bloodborne, while big ultra-sized weapons like hammers and greatswords make you flop around like you're a noob in Dark Souls. Don't fret if you plan on using a big weapon though. With a little practice, you can dodge like a pro at any mobility speed. Let's go over an interesting but slightly confusing mechanic called scaling. You might have already noticed the letters under your stat bonuses section. They range from D-, a minimal increase, all the way up to A+, a maximum increase. Your blood code and passive perks both influence how big of a bonus is added to your weapon's base damage. These bonuses also apply to drain attacks, spells, as well as your normal weak and heavy attacks. Those who have played Dark Souls or Bloodborne will be familiar with this kind of damage calculation. As a Souls veteran, I was pleased to see that all the familiar old mechanics are making a return. You can perform weak attacks, heavy attacks, backstabs, and parries. However, that's not the end of the story. By holding the combo button, you can perform different weak and heavy attacks. Modified weak attacks vary from weapon to weapon, but usually it's a sweeping attack or it's an attack that knocks enemies down. Once your focus gauge is full, you can launch enemies skyward by performing a modified heavy attack. If your target survives the modified heavy attack, your character will drain some extra Ichor from them, adding it to your overall max Ichor. Bosses are the only exception to this tactic. They must be wearing magnetic shoes or something. All in all, it's a super fun system to use and means you can extend your 1-2 weak attack combo in style. You can also increase your max Ichor by charging up a drain attack. Be careful when using your drain attack though. You have to wait for it to be fully charged before letting go of the button, otherwise nothing happens. One last thing, you can also use the combo button with your Blood Veil's Drain Attack, giving you a quick strike that covers some extra ground while you're on the offensive. It only gives half the max Ichor compared to the fully charged Drain Attack, but you can execute it very quickly. The only rule to this is that you have to use some other attack before using the combo Drain Attack, otherwise nothing happens. The combo attack system adds a huge amount of depth and style to the combat, so find a weak dude and practice on his unlucky lost backside. I know I will. Speaking of style, let's talk parries. The parrying in Code Vein is a bit unique. I mentioned it earlier, but each of the 4 main types of Blood Veil has its own parry timing, just like how each Blood Veil has its own unique drain attack. Once you successfully land a parry, your character will automatically follow up with a drain attack, adding your enemy's Ichor to your own supply. No more whiffing ripostes on accident! Before we dig in, let me first explain how to read the focus gauge. As you build up your focus, the edges of the gauge will get closer and closer together until they touch and form a diamond. Congratulations! You are now fully focused. Your character will unleash a blue flash when this happens and will continue to glow blue for the entire time you are focused. Your focus gauge will also glow blue to reflect this, and the edges will steadily recede back to their original position. When you are unfocused, the gauge is invisible. I think it's a really cool system that spices up combat. If you dodge at the absolute last second, you will increase your focus. Once fully focused, you'll gain improved defense, better stamina consumption, and improved modified heavy attacks for a brief time. Dodging perfectly isn't the only way to build up your focus. You can also let the enemy hit you in the face a few times, or block the incoming attack like an intelligent person. I love this system because it both prevents you from dying horribly to a new enemy you've never encountered before, and it also rewards you for playing risky against enemies you've killed thousands of times. But that's not the end of the story. Every enemy, except for bosses, has access to the same focus system that you do. When an enemy is focused, you have a few different options for dealing with them. You can switch targets and let their focus wear off. You can just keep hitting them despite the decreased effectiveness. You can also make some distance between you and your target, then blast them with magic. Another tactic against a focused enemy is to go for a backstab, since their focus gauge will deplete the whole time you rip them a new one. And lastly, my favorite tactic, you can dodge their swings until your own focus gauge is full, and smack them skyward with a modified heavy. Attacking while focused will deplete your gauge, so take full advantage of the brief time you are focused. I think that just about covers everything. You are now officially prepared to tackle the many challenges of Code Vein. If there's anything incorrect or confusing, please let me know in the comments. I want this guide to be as accurate and informative as possible. Unfortunately, this video is already absurdly long enough as is, so I don't have time to cover any of the character creation process, so look forward to an in-depth character creator guide soon. There's also a few other things I wanted to include in this guide, but simply lacked gameplay footage to properly show it. Things like an introduction to all the NPCs, both the ones you can party up with and the ones who need help, a deep dive into all the different gifts and passive perks, as well as a comprehensive guide to all the weapons and consumable items. Check back with me in a few weeks, or do the thing that literally every other channel tells you to do. I'm not going to say it, because I respect both your time and your choices. Thank you for watching this all the way through. It really means a lot to me. I certainly feel like it's a very exciting time to be an anime vampire. Or a cat girl. As always, think for yourself and do what feels natural. See you later!